part of the king coming back. That's what we're practicing for. That's why hell hates it that we're worshiping at every capital across America. That's why we get called, well, you're a Christian nationalist. You want the kingdom to be the government. Yes. You want God to come and overtake the government. Yes. You want Christians to be the only ones that, yes, we do. We wouldn't be a disciple of Jesus if we didn't believe that. We want God to be in control of everything. We want believers to be the ones writing the laws. Yes, guilty as charged. I mean, it's funny when I meet Christians where I'm like, I'm like, have you read the Great Commission? Like, this is actually what we want. Guilty.
Well, we got to have another great talk here today. I got some clips to show you. I'm going to talk about an issue that many of you may have seen where they're talking about Nigeria, about this persecution of the Christians that are being persecuted or have lost their lives over there. There's thousands, I think, as of 2025. But that's the talk that you see. You're getting the talk from the false teachers. You're getting the talk from the nationalist people and the evangelical community. They all want to talk about this and things. And this message is, don't get caught up and be fooled like they're really concerned about the people of Nigeria that's losing their lives. And I'm going to prove my point, because guess what I have, guys? It's been a while. Got the notes. The notes are back. I bring them out from time to time because I didn't want to lose a couple of points that I have right here on my notes. And I have here first. Some people, if you notice that everyone is in this uproar about these people losing their lives over there, Christians, but the same people, these same evangelicals, these same people here in the United States, there's Christians that have temporary TPS status where they have fled their country because of persecution, and many of them are Christians. And guess what? They're okay with them being sent right back, even though their status was still good. And the administration pulled the rug out from under and said, no, forget about it. And things. Now they want to act like they're so concerned. Yeah, you see the hypocrisy in this thing? But I'm going to tell you why they're doing this. So we're going to get down to that. So yeah, they don't really care, because if they care, they wouldn't be trying to send people to some of these war-torn countries and have them sent there to go lose their lives or have their daughters taken off and brutally raped and sent off into some form of slavery if they really cared. So this is a way for them to control people. Basically, to control the narrative, evangelicals is what it is, to justify their actions. Because for some reason, evangelicals continue to push this narrative that they're under this great attack. If you always hear this great attack, if the media's silent, everybody's silent, this great attack. Well, let's look at a couple of clips here that I want you to see so we can continue this conversation further.
Hunting Christians in many parts of the world, and we're not doing that in the States yet.
It's real and it is horrific. And yes, we know other faith groups are also being persecuted, but Christians have a giant X on their back.
The notions that evangelicals or the religious right is aggrieved in this country is, on the face of it, I think is preposterous. I think a case can be made that these people, in fact, are the aggressors. They're the ones who are trying to impose their values, their religious convictions on the remainder of society.
They're actually demanding a license to discriminate against those of whom they disapprove, and they're asking for an ability to override the law when it conflicts with their religious beliefs. For some Americans, that's a cause for alarm, and for others, it's the answer to their prayers.
When I wake up at 2 a.m. and I hear a noise, I no longer think it's going to be the FBI.
That's true.
For me, no, we were on the list.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Now I know Kash Patel, we're in a much better place.
You're not going to get that.
I'm not going to get
the
2 a.m. knock. No, for 4 years.
That's right.
We lived under a Soviet-style sword of Damocles.
Yeah.
It was kind of hanging over us.
Yeah.
That could drop at any time.
Exactly.
And that's why when Trump won, I had that kind of reaction that I did.
And as you saw in that clip, Charlie Kirk, talking about the FBI and being worried and this nonsense type stuff that was this thing where they're always, we're under this great persecution. But no one's being dragged out of their house, taken out into the streets, and executed like you will see in Nigeria's and different parts around the world. You don't see people being thrown in jail because of their faith. Do you see that in the United States? You don't see that because I'm a Christian. I've been thrown in jail because I'm standing on the faith. But that's the narrative that they want to push, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to utilize, see, this persecution. You got to stand up for the Christians. It's happening everywhere. But it's really, that's a sly move that they're trying to do to bring forth their self-righteous agenda, where they want to make sure these commandments are in the schools, make sure that a teacher is teaching a Bible in a school, which is, that's a whole nother subject because I've talked about that. Who's to say that teacher, that you're just going to believe that teacher has committed their life to the Lord and that this teacher is filled with the Holy Spirit and supposed to be teaching? And that's what church is for. That's what your home is for. I don't need some person that I know nothing about trying to tell young ones and things they're about the Bible and their radical ideology, that's where they twist the scriptures, and they've been twisting it for decades. So that's what it's all about, to push their little radical Christian nationalist agenda.
So you would be okay with the Supreme Court leaving the question of interracial marriage to the states?
Yes, I think that's something that if you're not wanting the Supreme Court to weigh in on issues like that, you're not going to be able to have your cake and eat it too. I think that's hypocritical.
About Griswold versus Connecticut.
Well, you can list a whole host of issues. When it comes down to whatever they are, I'm going to say that they're not going to all make you happy within a given state, but that we're better off having states manifest their points of view rather than homogenizing it across the country as Roe versus Wade did.
Because they want to try to say, yeah, this attack is happening and we've got to stand up and do something. Do something, America. We got to do this because it's happening to us too, right in the United States. So, they'll say, the media and no one wants to talk about the persecution that's silent, and everyone's silent in the United States about this. But you know what they're silent about? Let's look at this video. Let's look.
Now to an NBC News investigation into a pattern of abuse at the world's largest Pentecostal denomination, the Assemblies of God. NBC News uncovered a 50-year pattern of sex abuse, silence, and cover-up. And now some survivors are looking for change from the top. A warning, parts of this story are hard to hear. When Stephanie Davis was in 6th grade, she was part of a group for homeschooled kids at an Assemblies of God church in Jonesboro, Arkansas.
This is most of our homeschool group.
When it was time for phys ed, Davis says children's pastor Tony Waller told them to undress in a bathroom, do stretches, and change into play clothes.
It just changed to, why don't you get naked and do this? It's going to
Stretches?
Yeah, stretches.
One day they were playing hide and seek and went into a storage room off the bathroom.
We opened the door. And there it is, a camera on a black stool.
Do you remember what you thought in that moment?
I knew. We knew that he had been taping us.
At first, they didn't tell their parents, but weeks later, Davis says Waller gave her a drink she now believes was drugged.
I just remember spinning, I don't know if I blacked out, but I remember there's a picture of green steps. I remember sitting on those green steps thinking, I've got to go.
What's the emotion you're feeling?
The emotion is just not knowing, exactly what happened.
She was scared and told her mom everything. She says her mother went to the head pastor, Mike Glover, with the disturbing details.
And then what happened after that meeting?
Tony was suspended, and then, he was back.
That's been a pattern in Assemblies of God churches. NBC News identified nearly 200 Assemblies of God pastors, church employees, and volunteer leaders accused of sexual abuse over the past 50 years. Together, they allegedly abused more than 475 people, most of them kids.
In about 30 cases that NBC News found, church leaders put alleged abusers in positions of power, allowing them to abuse again.
In 2015, Tony Waller was arrested after his wife found thousands of images of naked children on his computer. Two young sisters, aged 10 or 11, told police Waller raped them. Waller was convicted and is in prison for life. Davis and Blackburn both gave statements of their own to police, saying Waller filmed them and that they reported it to Pastor Glover.
That's another video of abuse from pastors in another large organization, as this previous video I just made was about the Southern Baptists. And you see, they don't talk about the abuse that's running rampant within the church realm. And they don't talk about that. They're silent on that. You notice that? They're silent. But as I mentioned in the previous video, they want to find and point out everybody else's sins. They want to look like, hey, look at your sin. Look at that. You've done that. You're damned to hell. Oh, and at the same time, you've got these leaders that are in high places and in pulpits and everywhere, and evangelicals that's going right along with this, because many of them are aware of the type of stuff that's going on. So they're the ones that are very silent about a whole lot of things, and we'll get more into that in another message. To bring this message home, because this video is not going to be long, my conclusion, I have on here, these guys, these evangelicals, these nationalist people and all of that, they think they so tough. I was just thinking, tough guys, tough women, they act like they so bad spiritually, think that they that's, the baddest of them all. And things. And I have on here, I was thinking, like, if you're so tough and so concerned about Christians and things going on around the world, you know what you can do? You got money that you've been taking advantage of from people, taking their money, hard-earned money by your lies, false prophecies for the false ones, and all of these people. Get a passport if you don't have one, and go over there, get with some of these organizations, TPUSA, Fox News, all of the ones that high places, these organizations that are out there that have the big money and big donors, and take some planes out there, going out there with the news crew, going out there. And guess what? It don't have to be silent. And I forgot to add, at least Congressman Leo Ryan had guts to go over to Guyana when the people were concerned about their loved ones, where Jim Jones, the false pastor, took his congregation over there. And he went over there to go see about them. And unfortunately, he lost his life by a critical mistake that he should have went over there with some security or so. But he had the guts to go. And I guarantee you, these folks that's running their mouths acting so tough, they ain't going nowhere. They ain't going to do anything. They're not really concerned. So going out there, this is your opportunity to make sure it's shown to everybody, so people can see this in the way that you want it. Right? Going out there, you so bad, but you know what? They ain't all that bad, because they're chickens is what they are, and they'll fold like a cheap chair you bought from the old Kmart. That's what'll happen with many of these people. You think the disciples were scared and Jesus was about to lose his life. Nowhere to be found. Peter, the closest, supposed to be close, and denied Jesus. I don't know this man. That's what, for these folks, they ain't going nowhere. They got all the power, all the influence and everything, and talk a good game like they're really concerned. But they're not concerned about the people within their own church doors. They're not concerned about their own communities. They're not concerned about the lost here. So all of a sudden, they want to act like they're concerned about others abroad like that. But the bottom line is, for many of the people, especially in this administration, and it's the same old thing, it all comes down to one thing: money. Because Nigeria has a whole lot of oil. Venezuela has a whole lot of oil. These places are rich, full of oil, just like in the days we know we've been through this before with Iraq. This is what it's all about. It's not about concern for some of these people that we're concerned about the drugs coming from Venezuela when we know most of the drugs are coming from Colombia and goes through Mexico, and the fentanyl, the stuff that's needed for it comes from China, and then to try to paint this narrative that it is drugs. No, it's oil. It's all about greed and money and control, and that's what it boils down to. And the same thing is within the church. These leaders that claim to love the Lord are all about control. They want to control your life. They want to control the narrative. They want to shove their form of Christianity, which I always say is a perverted version, down the throats of people. They want to force it onto you and bring it about a Sharia-style, Taliban-style law where they think that this nation should be dominated and totally controlled by their form of Christianity.
2016 to 2020, it's kind of slower than it is right now, but God is moving. And it's interesting, in the Psalms, David calls himself, or God calls David the firstborn, the king over all the kings. So there was a king who was over all the kings, which basically means God is the king of kings, and he's made us, according to the Bible, kings and priests. So like we were talking about before the show, God has put kings on the earth. It's you, Flashpoint Army. God has given you dominion and authority over your place and your sphere of interest. And the moment that we recognize that as the church, and the moment we grab a hold of it and understand that God has given you unbelievable authority over this world, we will be in charge of everything. And I mean everything. I'm talking about not only the government, but also the school system, as Pastor Brian so eloquently talked about. We'll be in charge of the legal system. We'll be in charge of the education system. And as our friend Lance Wallnau says, that's not Christian nationalism. That's just Christian internationalism. So I think, might as well get started now, if you have my opinion.
And what they've done, it's unfortunate these people have lost their lives over in Nigeria and what's going on. We know what the scripture says about persecution as Christians and what the Bible talks about that. And it's a shame with everything. But the people right here, in these pastors, these folks that are claiming to be messengers for the Lord and leaders in high places, they've got a whole lot of blood on their hands right here in the United States. Because there's a whole lot of people that's been tripped up and a lot of people that's created stumbling blocks. And there's a lot of people, because of this nationalist junk, are going to want nothing to do with Jesus Christ. So imagine all of the souls that have been destroyed and people that may never get to know the Lord because of these idiots that are proclaiming that they love him and pushing hate, rhetoric, and lies and nonsense. I'm getting mad right now thinking about that because the amount of souls that have been lost because of people right here, pastors, leaders that claim to love the Lord, people, and there's people. Thank God I'm saved already. Some of you have said it before as well. Thank God we're saved, because if we didn't know the Lord, and you see how these so-called evangelicals and the people that act hiding behind this banner of Christianity, you're going to be like, man, I don't want nothing to do with that junk. I don't want nothing to do with it. But fortunately, I'm so glad that I'm saved, and then we have to continue to trust that the Holy Spirit is going to break this. And as I say, remove these false pastors and leaders that have no business. Their time is up. They need to the Lord needs to set them down. They've destroyed enough lives already. We'll continue to pray for those around the world, continue to pray for those within this United States and within the church, and those that are struggling, that trying to seek some type of something. Because, there's a lot of hopeless folks out here. And especially, sometimes there's no one else to turn to but the Lord. But you don't want to turn to their version of the Lord, because you don't want that, because it's dark and it's a false Lord. And we don't want that. We want to serve the one that died on the cross for us because of the love that was within him. Until the next video, my friends, Evangelism for God is a channel where we talk about issues the church run away from, tackle Satan and his tactics, punch him right in between the chops. My name is Maurice Braxton. Until the next video, my friends, take care. God bless.